Hey, I'm Sam. Welcome to Brickwall Unplugged. I am back with another tier list. This time I'm covering the great, the one and only Robert De Niro. I just recently covered Al Pacino, and I figured that meant it was time to cover good old Bobby D as well. You can see he's got a ton of films in this here tier list. A bunch of these I have already touched on in other tier lists and just in other videos in general. Particularly his Scorsese collaborations I've already talked about at length, so I'll probably move pretty quickly through those. But we have a bunch of new films that I've never really talked about on the channel before or on my main channel, Brickwall Pictures. These movies are in a randomized order, except for I did save Killers of the Flower Moon for last, since that is the latest release, and he just got his latest Oscar nomination for it, and it's a whole big deal. I'll be going into a whole bunch of depth on that one. I think we have 30 films here, so it's a whole lot to get through. First up in this randomized order, or mostly randomized order, is Joker, which I'm not a fan of. I can understand why a lot of people like Joker. I get it. But if you loved Joker, but you haven't seen a lot of De Niro's older movies, go see his older movies and then see how much you still like Joker. You might still like it a lot. I'm not saying it invalidates it or anything, but I am saying that Joker is very much just kind of cribbing the style of a couple older De Niro movies in particular and trying to transplant Joker into that. A lot of people compare it to Taxi Driver. They call it Taxi Driver, but with the Joker. But really, it's a lot closer to The King of Comedy. It's almost a remake of The King of Comedy. Like, almost. It feels like they needed the, adaptation rights to King of Comedy to make Joker. I will say that De Niro being involved makes Joker a bit of an easier pill to swallow because it's kind of them acknowledging the King of Comedy connection and the Taxi Driver connection as well. If De Niro wasn't involved, it would feel like even more of a shameless ripoff, but at least this is them acknowledging it. I don't know if you can even really call it an homage. It does kind of feel like, not a ripoff, not a knockoff, but a shallow imitation, I would say. On its own merits, I don't think it's very good. I think the messaging is pretty muddled and horribly confused, but part of that might just come from Toddy Boy having not great takes on certain things. Like he was one of the only filmmakers who was against the strike, if you didn't realize, which gives him a big thumbs down in my book. Joaquin Phoenix is good in it, though. Joaquin Phoenix is just always good, though. Like, he's good in plenty of other better movies. I don't like Joker. I don't think it's, awful. It's watchable. As far as modern superhero movies go, or not really superhero, he's a villain, obviously, but, as far as modern, comic book adaptations go, it's not one of the worst, but I also don't think it rises above them like some try to say. I think it's very mediocre. I think D is maybe even being a little generous. I could probably go down to E with it, honestly. It's right between D and E. It's better than an F, but not much. I think I'm going to go E with it, honestly. If you've been around the channel for a while, you know that, the modern superhero movies are really not my thing, though there are exceptions. I really like Logan, for example. Logan is one that does rise above most of the modern superhero deluge, just to give one example. Anyway, okay, Killer Elite. Killer Elite is a remake, if you didn't know, but it's a remake of a film most people probably haven't seen and weren't even aware it was a remake. It's not a super special story anyway, so it being a remake is kind of I don't know how much value you're getting from the name recognition, you know what I mean? Which is why a lot of these remakes happen, is because it's established IP. People go, oh, I recognize that, but do they recognize Killer Elite? Probably not. Anyway, Killer Elite had some promise because it's a fun cast, and the movie promises to be a no-holds-barred actioner with the three of them as, assassins going after each other and whatnot. But it doesn't really deliver on what it promises. There's not a ton of action in it, and what action is there is pretty incompetently handled, and then what you're left with is extremely shallow characters and a very generic story. So there's really no reason to watch it. I think it's another E. We're not starting at the tier list off on the best foot. The randomized order kind of screwed us a little bit here, but the next one I can be much more positive on, Ronin. Over on my main channel, Brickwall Pictures, I have a full review for Ronin, and I also sung its praises in my video essay about how to make a great car chase, because Ronin has not just one, but two of the best car chases ever shot. Ronin is a pretty good film overall. It's got a decent script. It's got some fun other action sequences, but the car chases are just the cream of the crop and are the real reason to watch this movie. So the car chases are S-tier car chases. The overall movie is more like a B, though, if we're just looking at the overall movie. Okay, next up is Meet the Parents. This is one of Robert De Niro's comedies. You'll notice I don't have a lot of his comedies on here. I also don't have a lot of his, like, more modern movies that are just kind of like, I don't know, like, why did you pick that movie, De Niro? He's got a lot of those movies, like Dirty Grandpa kind of movies. Those aren't my thing. I know they're not my thing, so I just don't watch them. Right? I prioritize movies that I hope to like or expect to like or seem interesting. And a lot of his modern movies don't meet any of those criteria, so I just skip them. Anyway, Meet the Parents is, I guess, one of his more classic comedies. I'd say probably Meet the Parents and Analyze This, both of which got a couple sequels. I haven't seen Analyze This or the sequels since it aired on like FX or whatever many years ago. They're not fresh enough in my mind to evaluate, to rank those, so I'm not including those. But Meet the Parents, the first one I rewatched not that long ago. I didn't go through the sequels, but I have seen the sequels, but not recently enough to rank them. Meet the Parents I rewatched recently enough, and then I don't know, it's just kind of okay. I didn't feel like it warranted going through the sequels again, especially because, the first one has the reputation of being the best of the bunch. I think it's okay. I don't think it's great, but it's got some funny moments. I don't know. It's not really, it doesn't really push my buttons, I think it's a C. It's a decent comedy, but it's nothing special. Okay, next up is Mean Streets, which I talked about on my Scorsese tier list. For all the Scorsese collaborations, I went pretty in-depth on my Scorsese tier list, which you can find a link to down in the description. You'll find a playlist with all of my tier lists in there. But it is worth mentioning that this was De Niro's big breakout role. He blasted out of the scene with this role, and then he immediately had Godfather Part 2 and Taxi Driver like soon after, and like talk about an explosive entry to the world of cinema. But yeah, he's really memorable in Mean Streets as Johnny Boy. He's the most interesting character in the film. He's not the protagonist, but he is kind of the catalyst for a lot of the drama in the film. Harvey Keitel's the main character, and he's really good as well, but De Niro's got the bigger, flashier character, and as such kind of steals the show. It's really good. I think it's an A. It's kind of like a light A, strong B, and I'm going to be generous and give it an A. Not Scorsese's best, but a really important, formative film in his career, in both their careers. Okay, next up is Machete. So Machete is not that old, but it feels kind of like antiquated these days. Talking about De Niro's character in particular, he plays the like racist Texas politician guy, and at the time it was released, he was supposed to be like over the top and like a caricature of like a right-wing, kind of politician type guy. But he feels so mundane and like unnoteworthy in the modern political landscape where like life has far surpassed the ridiculousness of parody. So his character just kind of feels like, on the more rational side of right-wing politicians these days, which is kind of wild. I enjoy Machete a whole lot as a film. I liked it when it was just a fake trailer in Grindhouse, and I really enjoyed the standalone film. Machete Kills, not as much on my tempo. I didn't like the sequel all that much. I would still watch Machete Kills in Space if they ever do it. Every once in a while, the rumor starts circulating that they're going to do it. I think especially because Danny Trejo really wants to make it. Robert Rodriguez is a little less motivated to make it seems, but Danny Trejo is really interested in making it. So I hope it happens. But the first one's a really good time. It's fun. It's over the top. It's got really good action, and it's got like consistent laughs throughout. I think it's pretty good. I think probably a B. I don't remember where I ranked it in my Robert Rodriguez tier list, but you can hear me talk about it a little bit more over on that video. Okay, next up is The Good Shepherd. Now, The Good Shepherd has some interesting things going for it. It's a like spy thriller where De Niro plays a CIA analyst, I think, or some kind of CIA like spy adjacent kind of guy. And it's particularly noteworthy in that De Niro doesn't just act in it, but he also directed it, which is not something he did often. He only directed, I think, 2 movies, this and A Bronx Tale, with The Bronx Tale preceding this one. So he directed this, and he didn't direct again. And, I got to say, that's really no great loss to cinema. It's kind of just a boring, forgettable movie. His direction is very unnoteworthy, kind of like George Clooney as a director. Like there's some actors turned directors where they go, oh yeah, you can really see that they're bringing all their cinema experience and a unique perspective. De Niro and Clooney, they're just kind of like, they're directing because they've been around a lot of directors, they've been on a lot of movie sets, they know how to assemble a movie, but that doesn't really mean that they have a unique voice or perspective. I don't know. It's not good. I think it's probably D. It's more interesting than either of these two to me. Okay, next up is Jackie Brown. This is his one and only Quentin Tarantino collaboration. As odd as it sounds, I think Jackie Brown, even though he's kind of like a minor character, he's a supporting role, not one of the leads, not the antagonist. So kind of a supporting role, but as odd as it sounds, I kind of feel like this might be one of my favorite De Niro characters. He's just so good in this role. He feels more chameleon than in a lot of roles where he's like very front and center star power. Like it's easy to forget that he's in this movie because he feels so unlike himself. Jackie Brown's is a great film in general. I think it's one of Tarantino's best. And I actually kind of do think it's one of De Niro's best performances. Not one of his most showy. He probably has like fewer lines than almost any other one of his roles. But he does a lot with like his silences, the pauses he takes between words, what he chooses not to say. It's a really great performance and a really interesting character. Jackie Brown, I think, is an S. A lot of people, I don't know, I see it every once in a while, they call it Tarantino's worst movie, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Come on. It's one of his best, I think. Okay, next up, The Irishman. We got 2 S-tier films in a row. Irishman, going on the S-tier. I've gushed about this movie constantly. Also, just in my Al Pacino tier list, because this is one of their handful of collaborations. Fantastic. The Irishman kind of like proved De Niro still got it after kind of making nothing but like those really shitty movies, like some straight to red box stuff, lots of like bland comedies and whatnot. He was kind of in a rut with like without having any great roles in a few years. Irishman was like, oh wow, he has not lost a step. He's still fucking got it. And Taxi Driver, this randomized order gave us a couple duds up front, but it gave us 3 S-tier films in a row. Taxi Driver is phenomenal. One of the best films ever made. I've talked about it enough. You can't do better than Taxi Driver. So many films have ripped this off or pulled inspiration from it, and it's never been bettered in its specific little category. And to the polar opposite end of the spectrum now, Righteous Kill. Big disappointment. Another one of De Niro and Pacino's collaborations, but this is their blandest, their least notable. It kind of only has it being a collaboration between the two of them as its only selling point. Their characters are not interesting, the story is not interesting, and it's terribly directed and edited. I just shot my Pacino tier list, and I already forgot where I ranked it, if I was generous and gave it an E or went all the way down to the F. I think it's an F. I don't know if I gave it the F for the other one, but it's an F. I'll grab the one poking up a little bit, which is Copland. This is one that I want to rewatch because I didn't think much of it when I watched it. I didn't really enjoy it. I wasn't impressed by it. I just consistently see it get really highly rated by people whose taste usually doesn't diverge super widely from mine, which makes me think maybe I should give it another chance, watch it in a different frame of mind or something. But I didn't think too much of it when I watched it. I'm going to stick with my opinion based on that first watch, which was, it was about a C. It was fine. I didn't regret watching it. It was enjoyable enough, but didn't blow me away. Okay, for a film that did blow me away, Goodfellas, instant S tier. That's our 3rd Scorsese in the S tier and our 4th overall. Goodfellas is an easy S tier, one of the best films ever made. Next up, Brazil. This is a weird one in De Niro's filmography because it's weird that he's like in it. It's a British production with like an entirely British cast except for De Niro, who shows up in it randomly. And he's in this like weird, wacky supporting role where he's like a little cartoon character almost. Brazil's a really good film. It's another one that I've been wanting to rewatch just because it's been a while since I've seen it. I think Brazil is a strong B or a weak A, kind of like I said about Mean Streets, but whereas I'm going to give Mean Streets the round up to the A, I think I'm going to round Brazil down to a B. Okay, Stardust. Stardust, not really my cup of tea. I don't really remember too much about it, if I'm being frank, but it didn't leave much of an impression. I think it's a D from what I remember. I don't know. Maybe it's worth revisiting. I know this movie has some diehard fans, but anyway. Okay, the score is basically a heist film. It pairs up De Niro and Edward Norton as the two leads. As far as heist films go, it's not one of the best. It's okay if you've exhausted all the other heist films, then maybe this is on a lower tier of heist films that you could, watch and still have a good time with. But it's very skippable. It's not too memorable. It also has Marlon Brando. I think it might be the only other time De Niro worked with Brando. Actually, the only time, full stop, since they're both in the Godfather movies, but he was playing Brando's character as opposed to, acting in it with him in the second one. I think it's another D. Okay, Heat. Bang. Into the S tier. It's another S tier film. Just talked about this on my Pacino tier list, but I also talked about it in my Michael Mann tier list. De Niro is really fucking good in this movie. This is one of his best performances of that decade of the 90s. And on a huge ensemble cast that is packed with phenomenal actors, I think De Niro might have the most interesting character to work with. He's ostensibly the villain of the film, but you root for him so strongly at the same time as you are rooting for Vincent Hanna, which is Pacino's character. Even though Pacino's hunting down De Niro, and you're rooting for Pacino, you're still kind of rooting for De Niro to get away with it too. That's the mastery, the trickery of Heat, is that it gets you rooting for both of them, even though they're on opposite sides of the law, even though De Niro is definitively the bad guy. He's still likable and interesting enough that you root for him despite that. And we got another one right in a row. The Godfather Part 2. It's S tier. It really is. I prefer Godfather Part 2 over Part 1, but I also have to say, because these always get compared, right? Goodfellas and Godfather. I do go Goodfellas. I go Goodfellas over The Godfather, but they're both S tier. They're both S tier. Okay, next up is Cape Fear. This is, I guess, sort of one of the weaker Scorsese De Niro collaborations. It's still really good though. This is one of the rare cases where I have not seen the original. Because if you didn't know, Scorsese's Cape Fear is a remake of an older film with, I believe, Gregory Peck, which I do plan to see eventually. De Niro's really good in it. It's an interesting character. He's the villain, and he is extremely villainous in this one. He's it's not like a horror film. It's definitely like a thriller, but De Niro's scary. He's real intense in this one. Really good performance. It's kind of it doesn't reach the heights of the best collaborations between De Niro and Scorsese, but it's really good for what it's aiming for, which is to be just a solid thriller. And it is a really solid thriller. I think it's a strong B. Okay, next up is Stone. Stone is, I think, it's really forgettable, but I think it's a prison break movie. There's at least prison involved in it. It's De Niro and Edward Norton again, who they work together on the score, and also Mila Jovovich. There's nothing about it that's just forward-facing bad, but it just doesn't do anything worthwhile. It's very generic. You've seen everything it's doing done better in other places. I think it's another D. It's not a bad time, but it's just very middle of the road, low aspirations, not really giving you much worthwhile. Okay. Shark Tale. What do I say about Shark Tale? I mean, I can tell you that I was still a kid when it came out. I watched it in the target age range, and I didn't really care for it then either. It didn't it's trying to be the DreamWorks Finding Nemo or whatever, but it's not. I don't know. It's very much like a worse version of that. Not that it's the same story as Finding Nemo, but it's them doing the fish movie, right? And it's, I don't know, it doesn't really work for me. I think it's E. I just remember being a kid and not liking it. And if I was in the target age range and it didn't work for me then I think that's a failure of a kid's movie. Okay, Hands of Stone is a more recent boxing movie. It's from a few years ago at this point. De Niro's done a few boxing movies after Raging Bull, but I think they're all just like living in the shadow of Raging Bull. Nothing has ever come even close to Raging Bull, and I feel like he gets cast so that, people go, oh, it's De Niro in another boxing movie. But like that trick's kind of old at this point. They did a grudge match with him and Stallone, and it was meant to be like Rocky versus Raging Bull, and then it was just like a go nowhere, do nothing, pathetic cash-in boxing movie, a paycheck movie for both of them. Hands of Stone isn't quite that. This is him. I mean, it is that. It is that. But De Niro's not the one boxing. De Niro plays, I think, Ray Arcel, who's a real guy. He's the coach of this guy, too. Oh, I forgot Usher played Sugar Ray Leonard in this. Oh, man, I forgot fucking Usher was like the villain of this one. Usher's not a great actor. He's not a very good actor. It's okay as far as boxing movies go, but it's also pretty generic. The problem with it is it just kind of sticks to that boxing biopic formula a bit too closely to where, like, all the beats it's gonna hit, the order of things. I don't know, it's kind of like been there, done that. I was gonna give it a C, but honestly it's very generic. I think it probably goes down to a D, actually. Okay, next up is The Untouchables. It's De Niro back in like gangster territory, like some of his Scorsese collaborations, but this time he's a much smaller role. He is Al Capone, who's like, for as big of a figure as Al Capone is, he's like not too present in the movie. His screen time's pretty minimal, actually. But De Niro definitely makes the most of his limited screen time. You could kind of argue that he goes a little too big in the role, like he's a little over the top. But he's definitely memorable, and I think he's effective as Capone. And I will say, speaking of Scorsese again, because Scorsese was involved in Boardwalk Empire, which also features Al Capone throughout a couple of its seasons. And I like that portrayal of Al Capone a whole lot more. That's Stephen Graham as that Al Capone. Stephen Graham's a really good actor in general. Very underrated as a performer, I think. And that Al Capone is more interesting. But The Untouchables is okay. I think it's pretty good. It's kind of one of those movies that's like really hyped up and a classic, and I don't know. It's not really that good for how big its reputation is. It's a little overrated. Not like super overrated, because it's still pretty good. Sean Connery's actually really good in it. He kind of gives the best performance in it. I don't really like Kevin Costner's performance in it. I think he's a little wooden as Elliot Ness, which, like, Elliot Ness, I guess he's a straight-laced, buttoned-up kind of guy. Maybe he is a little wooden, I guess, in real life, but I don't know. Kevin Costner, he's just kind of not very charismatic in this role. I'm not super well-versed in Kevin Costner's roles. I tried watching Dances with Wolves about a year ago, and I had it on DVD, and for whatever fucking reason, fuck whoever released this DVD, but it is so quiet. When I watch DVDs, I usually have the volume between like 20 and 30 out of 100. This Dances with Wolves DVD, I cranked that fucker all the way up to 100 out of 100, and I still couldn't hear the fucking dialogue. And there were no subtitles on the goddamn DVD. What is that about? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Untouchables is okay. It's an okay gangster movie. It's maybe a little overrated. I think it's a B. It is still good. People call it like an S tier all-timer. It's not that, but it is still pretty good. It's a B, I think. Okay, next up is Casino. Casino is another one of the Scorsese collaborations, so I'll try to move through it kind of quickly. It's them doing another gangster film. Now, I see Casino get a lot of flack or criticism as it being like, oh, they just did Goodfellas again. It's another S tier movie is what I'm getting at here. It's fucking fantastic. And also, like, it's some of the same stylistic things, some of the same like story areas as Goodfellas. It is so far away from just being Goodfellas again. Both of their characters, meaning De Niro and Pesci, are so completely different. Actually, Pesci's character is pretty similar. I'll give it that. He's again like very violent and unpredictable, and like Pesci's character is pretty similar, but De Niro's character is completely different, and the dynamic between them is completely different. The story is so different. Just the setting of swapping New York gangsters for like Las Vegas desert casino gangsters. Like a change of setting makes a huge difference. And just the world of casino. Yeah, it's gangsters again, but it's a completely different world, even though it's, organized crime again. It's so good. It's so excellent. If you slept on Casino because of its reputation as like, oh, it's the worst Goodfellas, ignore that. Give it a chance. It's fantastic. And we got another Scorsese De Niro collaboration. We still have two more Scorsese De Niro collaborations as well. Raging Bull, I already talked about it a little bit in comparing it to Hands of Stone. This is like the pinnacle of the boxing movie genre. I've seen a bunch of boxing movies, but I've never seen Rocky. I still haven't seen Rocky, which is probably the only contender for the title of best boxing movie. Out of all the boxing movies I've seen, which admittedly is not all of them, but I have seen a lot, Raging Bull is easily the best, like by leaps and bounds. It's at least an A. I might go all the way to S. I forget where I put it in Scorsese's tier list. I think it's an S. I don't know if I might have given it an A there, but I think it's an S. Okay, The Deer Hunter. The S tier is getting a little heavy. The list is going to like tip over at some point, but The Deer Hunter is another S. This one is from Michael Cimino. Phenomenal directorial work on this film. De Niro is phenomenal in this, as is the entire cast. Like Christopher Walken is so good in this role. I think it's Christopher Walken's best role. Also, it's the final performance of the great John Cazale, worth watching for him alone because he's fantastic in it. And Meryl Streep, again, excellent in it. Now, I see some people say that The Deer Hunter spends a little too long putzing around with like the wedding stuff, basically everything before they go to war. And it does spend a long time with that, but I will defend all the pre-war stuff as being integral to this movie because you get to know these characters so well in their home life when they're just like normal everyday people. And then when it has that harsh cut from that to the war, to me that's like one of the great like edits. And I don't mean like overall film editing, I mean singular edits, like the bone to the spaceship, the match to the desert horizon, the pre-war to the thick of it, getting captured, becoming a POW, that edit should be up there as like the greatest single edits of all time. Just fantastic film, front to back. It's long, it's hefty, it earns its runtime, which I would also say about The Irishman, Goodfellas, Casino, Godfather 2, and Killers of the Flower Moon. De Niro kind of specializes in these long movies that justify their runtime. But I'm not getting to Close of the Flower Moon just yet. I almost jumped the gun a little bit there. I didn't see it as like a dark thriller, kind of like verging into horror territory. It's not good. It's got kind of like it's one of those like M. Night Shyamalan knockoff movies, like one of those like in the wake of Sixth Sense, trying to capture that with like similar mood and tone and like, the twist ending and stuff, but this one's just not good. It's E at best, if not F. Okay, next up is King of Comedy. It's looking ridiculous at this point, but I think it's another S tier film. A lot of these are Scorsese joints. King of Comedy's really good. Some people rate it a little bit lower, but I think it's up there with their best collaborations. I think this is one of De Niro's absolute best performances. He's Rupert Pupkin is the character. And there are so many layers to this guy. He's a deceptively complex character. And the thing about King of Comedy, I think some people take the title at face value and they go in thinking it's a comedy, and it's not a comedy. It's not at all a comedy. So know that going in. This is a dark drama, like thriller. It's a lot closer to Taxi Driver than it is to like Meet the Parents or whatever. If that's what you expect going in, you're going to be disappointed. Know that it's a dark, Once Upon a Time in America. I don't think I would quite go to S with it. I think some people would, and like good on them, fair play. But I think it's an A for me, which is still excellent. I don't give it a lot of A's, obviously. It's really, really good. This is from the great Sergio Leone, the Italian filmmaker best known for the Dollars trilogy with Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. He also made Once Upon a Time in the West. So Once Upon a Time in the West, you have that's obviously a Western. And then Once Upon a Time in America is like the gangster equivalent of that, bringing a lot of the same stylization. Well, I say that, but at the same time, it feels like a completely different movie. or I mean, a completely different filmmaker at the helm. It doesn't really have a lot of the Leone hallmarks. It's really good. There's a great screenplay at the helm of it. Again, it's extremely long. I think it's even longer than like The Irishman, which has a reputation for being super long. I think it's even longer. I know that my DVD for it is on 2 discs. That's how long it is. You have to fucking take one DVD out and put the second DVD in to watch the whole movie. It's really good though. It's got a fantastic grip of tone, a really great, I would say like color palette. Like it's got this like sepia tone vibe, which really fits the olden setting. Excellent cinematography. It does great things with chronology. Like it uses, it jumps forward and backwards in time throughout different points in De Niro's character's life. I think his character's name is Noodles. And it jumps forward and backwards in time to when he's like a youngster first getting into the gangster life, then when he's like an old, at the end of his life, almost kind of like The Irishman in a sense, where it's jumping backward and forward throughout a gangster's entire life. Actually, these would make a good companion piece. If you have like 12 hours to spare and you want to do a double feature, go ahead and do these two back to back. That'll be a fun time. Okay, and last but certainly not least, Killers of the Flower Moon. I have talked about this a little bit over on Brickwall Pictures. Easily one of the best films of 2023. I say it's not just one of the best films of 2023. I say it is the definitive best film of 2023 by quite some margin. It's an S-tier film. It's the only film of 2023 that I would give an S-tier ranking to. The only one that I've seen so far. And I've been catching up on lots of the 2023 movies that I hadn't yet seen when I did that other movie. Like, when I recorded those other 2 videos, I hadn't yet seen Barbenheimer, the double feature, and I hadn't yet seen, like, Anatomy of a Fall, all of which I liked to one degree or another. They still don't come anywhere near Killers of the Flower Moon. Anatomy of a Fall comes the closest. I'd give Anatomy of a Fall an A. Killers of the Flower Moon is fantastic. It's phenomenal. It wasn't released yet when I did my Scorsese tier list, but it's another S tier for Mr. Martin Scorsese. When I do my Leonardo DiCaprio tier list, which is coming soon, it'll be an S tier there as well, obviously. It's just an excellent, excellent, excellent film. I already want to watch it again. They just brought it back to theaters because of the Oscar nomination, I guess, and I'm tempted to go out to the theater again and watch it. I kind of want to do a double feature of The Irishman and this. I might just do a triple feature of these 3, and I might as well pop these in, and that'll be my entire 2024. But yeah, it's fantastic. De Niro is, again, excellent in it. He's kind of like I said about King of Comedy, a deceptively complex character, a deceptively evil man, too. Like, he's a fantastic villain. He kind of provides a face to like anti-indigenous discrimination at large, while doing this thing where he masquerades as like a benefactor, as a champion, as a defender of like Osage rights in particular. Like, he's beloved by the community, but it's a carefully manufactured facade. He's a master manipulator and a total psychopath below the surface. Fascinating character. It's just a great movie. You watch this film, watch it multiple times. I want to see it again already. It's got to go down in the history books as an all-time great. And I believe that about these 2 in particular. I feel like Scorsese gets lots of love from the cinephile community. I feel like his 2 new ones aren't getting the acclaim that they deserve as like all-time greats. And they are. Like, a decade down the line, these 2 films will both be hailed as, all-time classics. And the heights of both of their powers. Anyway, so that's where I rank Robert De Niro. Lots and lots and lots of S tier films up here, but then we got some weaker films as well. Only one F tier, and like I said, you could, I don't know, this could maybe be in the E tier if we wanted to, smooth things out a little bit. But to be frank, he definitely has some films that if I were to watch them, I think there's a good chance I might give them the F tier, like movies that seem horrendous. From like the premise, the clips I've seen, I'm just not going into those movies. If I expect to hate a movie, I'm not going to give it the time. All right? Not going to. I'm not one of those critics that like seeks out things that I think I'm going to hate just to tear them apart. That's not the way I operate. It's fine for other people who do though. No shade. What am I doing? Okay, we're done. The tier list is over.